to call this meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. on February 8th, 2018. First order of business to approve the January 25th, 2018 Selectmen's meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? This is the public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone who wishes to address the board with any items not currently on the agenda to do so. Seeing none. Capital improvement plan presentation. Lori?
Yes, good evening. So before we begin our capital improvement plan presentation for fiscal year 19 and beyond, tonight in the room you will notice that we have the install of some new equipment, and hopefully people at home are noticing a difference. And Michael Davis and David Powell, our audio-visual crew, are going to come out and just give you a quick overview of what we've changed up.
All right, we have all new type of
You got to use the mic.
Okay, we have all new digital equipment in the big studio that we have back there, and we're all just basically trying to learn how it operates right now. So if there's any errors, it's Dave's fault. No, I'm just kidding. So, but it's should streamline everything down really nicely. It should be a sharper image coming along. We're probably going to have little bugs. Also, we're going to be able to, if people want to call in or Skype or something like that, we can carry on a conversation so they can look up the screen and see someone talking, and we can send a signal back to them. So, and that works out really well. We tested it out last week.
The folks at home might not be able to see it, but we do have a monitor here in the community room, and we'll be getting another one on a rolling stand over on that side near the podium.
And also, we have a new projector that will be up there too, so
we can project on this screen back here.
So, but if there's any problems that you notice at home, just let us know, and we'll try to take care of them. Other than that, let's get this meeting rolling.
If
you hear us screaming in the background, don't pay attention to us.
So that was part of our capital improvement plan from a gone by year now, but now we're finally seeing the installation of the equipment both at police and fire. If you have your capital improvement plan document here, the multi-page spreadsheet, we just want to do a brief overview of some departments, and I am going to start with Parks and Rec, and Brees Regal is going to come up to the podium. I would tell you that this is a capital improvement plan. So the plan is right up there, Brees. And the plan means that this is to give us an idea of what is in store in the years ahead, and for us to have that discussion as we finalize the budget for FY19 and get some feedback from the board, and also have a community conversation about what are the capital needs of our community. And so Brees Regal is our new Assistant Director of Parks and Recreation. Brees is from Pennsylvania, but he assures me he's a Patriots fan.
Okay.
Okay. And Brees is going to give us a little overview of Parks and Recreation.
Hi. I'll start out just with 2019. In 2019, we're looking to make a number of different improvements. We are looking to construct a sledding hill in cooperation with the school district on the property purchased by the McCabe's beside Parsons Field. We're also looking to furnish a new Parks and Rec building once it is created. Improvements to Parsons Field are I guess, well,
Oh, there we go.
with my mic being on, that's all I had. So.
Thank you, Bryce.
So one thing while Breeze is there, we just want to talk about the Sledding Hill project. As you know, the Sledding Hill at Consolidated School has been questioned since the since the renovation project, and the superintendent and I had been discussing other opportunities to create a sledding hill. I had been thinking the past couple of years about what we might be able to do to offer the community. We have found that we thought that there is not enough steepness to the topography for a natural sledding hill, that we would have to build up the slope a little bit. And when we talked to planning and codes, we found that that would be a planning board review. And so we would need to have an engineer plan to bring before the planning board. So it's certainly not something we could accomplish this year. The school is interested in partnering with us to do that, but it would be something we could have in store for next winter. The Parks and Rec Department would have to monitor it. We've checked with our insurance company, and the school has let us know that they would help fund that. So we just wanted to get your reactions to that use of the McKay property.
Love it. I think it's great, but they should still fill in the ditch. I don't want them to think that this exonerates them from that. You know, I've gotten a lot of feedback actually today. I didn't realize this part of it was gonna be on the agenda, but anyway, you know, this is the future.
I think it's a great
But-
idea. It's a gap. There's with the loss of that hill, which has been a traditional thing for the town, for the kids of Kennebunkport forever, to have it not there has hurt. And to have a plan and a partnership with the school to fix something that went awry, I think is a great thing.
Okay, great.
Oh, I think it's a great use of that property. Don't misunderstand
We just
me
wanted
there.
to make sure we're on the same page before we start moving forward.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions or anything?
It's good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Reese.
All right, while we're in the P's, we're gonna head to Piers. And so I'm going to invite Lee McCurdy and Michael Claus up. And we are going to move forward to the Cape Porpoise Piers slides. Okay, so hold on a minute. So Lee, sit down for a minute. We're just learning this technology, Lee. So I'm gonna do Ocean Avenue first. So we're gonna do special projects. So under special projects, we've had for the past few years, the possibility of the Pier Road and the Ocean Avenue projects that we had been putting off. And we are proposing in FY19 that we've gotta move that Ocean Avenue project up. And Mike's gonna talk a little bit about that and show you some photos.
So, back in 2009, the town engaged Word and Current to take a look at the Ocean Avenue sidewalk. And they came up with a proposal, and that involved raising the road to make it floodproof. Looking at the cost of that it was extremely expensive. So we said, how can we cut the, you know, and the problem was noted at that time, of the problem with the deteriorating concrete wall on Ocean Avenue was noted as a problem at that time. But I think the cost of raising the road and the issues that raising the road would impinge on the neighbors, it just never had any reason to move forward. This year, the Rinaldis came to us and asked us to take another look at the wall, because it's not, you know, it's leaning back into their house. So we went back with Word and Current and looked at it again, and they said there is really no structural reason. You know, the Rinaldis' house is holding up the wall at this point. The wall has basically failed right at their house. The rest of the wall is leaning and deteriorating, but the bad part is right at the Rinaldis' house there on Ocean Avenue, the old Booth Tarkington boathouse. So we looked at, we could do a spot repair there. It would be expensive, it would look different. So what we talked to Word and Curran about was just doing the wall from the Nonanum to Fairfield Creek Bridge, redo the retaining wall under that sidewalk so that it is structurally sound the whole way, fix the cross culverts going across, and leave the road elevation as it is, but design the retaining wall so that if in the future we need to raise that retaining wall, we could do that, and be able to, whatever kind of guardrail we put on it, make sure it's modular so it could just be placed on top of a precast beam, so to speak, if we need to raise the wall. So they looked at that, and the cost of that section is still approaching, $1 million. So it is still expensive just to replace the retaining wall, much less not raising the road. You're still repairing, you're still doing some major road work, because you got to take out about half the road to put the retaining wall in. But it's a project the town's been aware of. I think that it's needed for a long time. It's been aware it's been an expensive project. It is not, except for the area in front of the Rinaldi's house, in front of the Boothard Boathouse, it's not a hazard right now. But there's no reason to think that it's really safe.
And the longer we wait, it's gonna get worse.
The deterioration is there.
Is this a bond? This will be bonded?
This would be bonded.
So something we'll talk about in terms of the budget process, but it is certainly a large expense that we have coming up in the short term. So speaking of other large expenses, Lee, do you want to come up? We're going to go to the first pier slide. Yep. And we're going to talk a little bit about Cape Porpoise Pier.
Yeah, what we've had is over the last 5 to 10 years, we've had a lot of deterioration on the front wall underneath the pier. And it's kind of directly right underneath the face of the building, which the foundation of the bait building rests right on that wall. And where it has started collapsing in, it's kind of broke the building floor right in half, and it's kind of hanging off. So we've been looking into some repairs. We've looked into a bunch of different ideas, but
So if we go to slide 2, the engineer has been there, visited the site. We've done an analysis on some geotechnical work, another survey work this past year, and this is a list of the issues that the engineer has identified.
yeah, they came down this spring, early spring, and they did boring and drilling samples and see how the ledge is underneath that. And we've come up with a few ideas, and we did pick a plan that we did like the best.
So the next slide, we show the elevations.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Mike, do you want to talk a little bit about the issue we've got there with moving the bait building?
So the real problem is the to lift that up at that end. The site, if you'll remember, is higher up by the monument and goes down towards the pier, towards the bait building. If we abide by, when we build it, we're going to have to abide by some new flood regulation to be determined. So the building will be up higher. So the thought was to move it.
Wait a minute. So we're just showing you here the current elevation in green. And then we are looking at both the current flood map elevations as well as the proposed flood map elevations. And you can see that even on existing, we would have to increase the height of the building by about 7.5 feet. If we do the proposed flood elevations, we're up around 12 feet that we would have to raise the building. So that's when the engineers really started to look at what other options we have for the site. So do we want to move to the next one? And here's the current existing site plan with the bait building over to the right We're at the top, and the pier, and then to the bottom there is kind of that beach ground out area. You can see it both in the photo as well as that. So do you want to talk about the new one? We'll show the next one.
So if you look at this next one, you'll see that we've moved the bait shed over the beach area. And the reason for that is that parking lot where people park now, we'd be coming in at that elevation instead of down below where the bait shed is now. So we lose some parking up above, but we gain it back where the old bait shed was. Essentially, the number of parking spaces stays the same. Circulation probably will work a little bit better with this layout. And you'd be able to you'd have a new bait shed and be able to drive essentially from where the existing upper parking lot is, right onto the bait shed, and get out, and then also get out. There's a little sidewalk next to that to get out onto the pier.
The high end of the bait shed would be level with the ground, and the pier side would be elevated. We'll probably
We're
not
gonna have a ramp.
We're probably not going to be able to use a ramp. Probably have to use hoist and bring out. We thought about maybe I-beam the whole length of the building, so won't have to use a bait dolly or anything to take it out. You'll be able to just haul it right all the way down the I-beam and right out the front door, and then drop it onto the pier and go from there.
This location allows us to meet the current flood elevations. So we are looking at an appeal as part of our flood map work that we're currently doing with Ransom Environmental to address the flood elevations here at Cape Porpoise Pier as well. The cost estimate for this is about $1.5 million. It's a fairly big project, but the current cribbing underneath the bait building is giving way. There continues to be issues, and the question just is when. We have been looking at what other opportunities there are for funding. The state has a small harbor improvement grant that we could apply for. I was able to get one of those for our government wharf project. The maximum grant amount is $250,000. The state has really decreased the amount of funding available over the past few years, so they're only doing about one project a year. We have met with the state, and they have us penciled in for the 2021 year, which would be the next time they would have funding available. We could certainly do the project sooner if we wanted to fund the entire project ourselves, and we're looking at other potential funding opportunities. Have not found any yet. My plan would be in this budget coming up in FY19 to budget the funds necessary to do the permitting and the design work, finish that up, so that when the funding is in place, we would be ready to move forward. We have met with Army Corps and Department of Environmental Protection since the movement of the bait building to a new area would come under their scrutiny, and it would be a little elongated permitting process, but we have hopes that they would allow that.
Sounds like a good plan.
Well, never say never. Also, on the plans also is we did have it widening the pier also to make easy to get down with trucks onto the pier itself. How tight it is getting down there, especially with a box truck or something to that lower hoist. I think it's a good plan. And hopefully we'll get it done and be able to get some permitting going here and get this down the road.
Hopefully they don't make us split it up 12 feet.
Let's hope not. I believe we do, there's some changes in the town zoning that we was talking about, maybe able to bring it down a little bit.
Right.
There's some options there, so.
Well, we're gonna do something, the cracks getting bigger and bigger in that bait shed.
It is.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
So, Michael, we're gonna move right to Public Works and wastewater for you.
What do you need? Do you want me to just go on? So for Public Works, in equipment, we're looking at replacing our sidewalk tractor, and that is a fairly expensive piece of equipment. So it's $175,000, and that is our roadside mower and our sidewalk snow blower. So it's fairly important. It gets a lot of
I
use.
saw it today, it's looking a little tired.
It is time to get that one changed. We have in the budget also replaced one of our F-350 4x4s. That's got 119,000 miles on it. We've talked. I talked to the town manager about that. We're probably going to sacrifice that one. So we will. You know, we've discussed it and said, and we can probably get one more year out of that. You know, just in the interest of asking for a lot of money in other spots. So that one will probably still be, if it doesn't come this year because of the way the budget comes, it's probably going to be back here next year. Repair and reconstruct roads. It's a big number, but a lot of that is my MPI project on Mills Road.
Get some funding towards that number.
We have a 2-year budget number on that. You know, we've been putting money away for that over time. The total number for that came out in their MDOT's 3-year plan is $877,000 that they're going to commit to us. We've signed the agreement for that. We haven't seen you sign the agreement back. But we can't spend any of that money, obviously, until June rolls around. The state money becomes available as soon as they send the contract to us. And then we would, but it comes in June. But the last one we did 2 years ago came in like February or March when they finally got around to signing it. I expect
And that's to finish Mills Road.
it'll get us, it may not get us to the very end of the Biddeford Town Line, but it'll,
You're talking that end or both ends?
Well,
You've done the middle.
right, we still got money from the first MPI to help finish up, to do some more on the going in. So we're gonna keep going in, from Beechwood out to Biddeford Town Line is overlay work. So I've got some money also set aside to start on that overlay work out there.
You guys did an excellent job on Mills Road this year. It's much improved.
So hopefully we can, from what we've got left, I'd like to do about half this summer, and then half and maybe half in the fall, spring. And that really, we've got to look at how we affect the traffic and things like that. We've got in other road, and our sidewalk money, a lot of that is paying for the shoulders on Mills Road. That's some of our sidewalk money you see there. We've also got some work on Ocean Avenue funded for this section, trying to do some improvements for pedestrian access, North Lake Gallery back towards the old firehouse, you know, the firehouse museum. There's like 4 stores in there, and a couple of them are galleries, and they like people to be able to walk safely in their areas, and we're working with them on trying to do some improvements there. And road-wise, I've got a list for all the roads in town, stretching it out. You guys just have 5 years of that list. Anybody want? And so I've got a whole list. We've got the rest of the roads for this year, besides Mills Road, everything else is overlay. You know, which is less disruptive, obviously, and just I think we're going to maintain our maintenance of our existing roads well with the overlay plan. The key guard fueling system, Lee is looking at a new fueling system at the pier. So our system is fairly old. The software on it's fairly old. So what we thought about was, if Lee's going to get a new system, we could match up with that system, get our software updated, get a new key system, and it would match with Lee's. Finance department would be able to pull the data from both the pier and Public Works directly. So we're going to be meeting with the vendors on that. I think we're meeting Monday, right? To talk about what our possibilities are. So right now, that's still in the planning stages, so we've got a placeholder number in there to get that ready for if that goes to the budget.
That's what we cost to do both of them.
That's the Public Works share.
Okay.
So Lee's also got a number in his.
So do you want to give an overview of wastewater?
Go to my wastewater page, and I apologize, Ronnie had a family emergency tonight, so he is not here, but he's briefing me very well. Grinder pump replacement, they've been replaced, the town, when we originally did the sewers, the wastewater, certain grinder pumps were grandfathered, and they've been replacing those on a yearly basis. So we aren't showing, for some reason, I don't know why we didn't get our FY, the 5-year in here, but I think we have one more year grinder pump replacement. They'd like to replace the generator out of Pump Station 12, which is out at Goose Rocks Beach by Dyke Road, and that's a critical pump station for them, and that generator's pretty old, so the crew really has made a real recommendation to do that. So we looked at that. The compost building sidewalls are rotting out on them, so they need to replace those. And they've talked to vendors about that and gotten some quotes on that. So I think they're happy with that number, that it's going to be a good number. Their Smith levels with wet well hatches are in the plant itself, and that was actually one of Dale's suggestions that Ronnie, he looked at it, and those are original with the plant, and I think it's a safety issue to get those hatches fixed. You know, the old ones are not what they consider safe. So Alan had been looking at that, and I think he was going to be pushing these forward. I think he had it 1 year out. Ronnie and Dale looked at it and asked me to put it 1 year forward. So we moved it into this. And their gas detector and docking station would allow them, right now they've got to go borrow something from the water district if they want to do gas detection. So they'd like to get their own. And they think this is a safety issue for them. So this will allow them to detect things better if they think they got a problem with their confined spaces.
Great, thank you, Mike. Police, the chief is under the weather, but the police department, as you can see at this point with the building enhancements we've already made, is really about cruiser replacement. And that plan is moving forward as normal. If we go back a couple of pages to page 2, we're going to talk about fire. Fire is coming to the podium now, I see.
Good evening. Just for those that don't know me, my name is Scott Lantang. I am acting chief at the moment due to circumstances that
When he's not plowing snow.
when one's not plowing snow, yes.
So I'd just like to thank Scott, and Dick and Jim are also here. This has certainly been a time of challenge, and really this team has gotten us through and worked brilliantly together to help lead the department as well as put a budget together and CIP. So one of the things they have been working to do is really build a plan for equipment and looking at some different replacement schedules, but we are in a time of transition, and we know that, waiting for the next chief, you know, we can't put too many plans in concrete. So they have put their flavor on the CIP this year and made some changes that Scott will talk about, but we all acknowledge that this could change with the new chief as we develop a plan for the future.
Correct.
So do you want to talk about the changes with the vehicles and the plan to reduce vehicles?
Yes. Back when Alan and the officers sat down a few years ago to think about replacing equipment and stuff, we've come to the realization that we have an overabundance of equipment. So the plan is to hopefully, in the near future, hopefully if it works out, will be 3 engines, a ladder, a tanker, and a couple brush trucks, and the squad truck, yes. That still leaves us with plenty of equipment. Discussion with the officers, they are in agreement, and they believe that we can actually do more with less. Only for the fact that a lot of the trucks don't get out because we don't have the personnel at the moment to, you know, at certain times we can, certain times we can't. So trying to get everybody to be able to ride on certain pieces of apparatus makes more sense than having pieces of equipment sit. And maintenance-wise, you know, we're putting more maintenance in trucks just sitting here not doing anything than, you know, sometimes sitting is worse than actually doing that. So the plan is hopefully to get on a kind of streamlined equipment basis.
Scott, do you think that by getting rid of these, you'll be able to recoup some money and put it back into your budget?
As we found out in the past, we've replaced, well, it was last year? 23? Last year was actually 2 years ago. We put out the old 23. We got interest from some way up Maine.
Is that the one you guys send up north?
Yes, which they love. They think it's an awesome truck.
We just
But-
sold the latest engine, I think we were able to recoup 10,000.
Right, and then, you know, the newest engine, or the engine we just replaced was 10 grand.
So we're spending about $500,000 and getting 10.
Yeah.
So
Not a good return on
we're
investment.
not really recouping on the old fire trucks.
No. But they are going to good homes. I mean, believe it, they're, I
They're
mean,
still usable.
they are still very usable and,
You know, I was here the night that they sent down the pictures, and it seemed as though they were very happy to have it.
oh, they're ecstatic. I mean, they're just, you know, places up that really can't afford trucks and, you know, it's good to see it go to a good home.
Are you better off to sell them, you know, right off rather than hold on to them? Or do you wanna wait, or is that your plan to wait?
Actually, we are in the process right now of trying to see what we can get for a couple pieces, you know. We have a couple places that we've dealt with before. So we're just waiting to see actually what the trucks are worth. So hopefully, I mean, if we can get 10, 15,000, which again, don't seem like a lot, but, you know, maybe 20,000.
Better
And-
than nothing, cause if they're just sitting here.
In the conditions they're in. Right now, they're in operable condition and, you know, so if we put them out now, hopefully, if not,
We have them anyway.
we have them anyway, you know. Until it costs too much to fix them, then we'll you know,
Sell
either
them for parts.
sell them for, whichever way we can do it, exactly.
Yeah, sounds good.
Anything else? Awesome, thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Scott. On the first page, we have administration. I'm gonna bring Werner up. And, and Tracy, my administrative team. And so, Tracy's just gonna give you a little update on the records preservation project.
Good evening. So I'm again asking for $5,000 for records preservation, As your town clerk, it's my responsibility and obligation to preserve our town records. And by utilizing this company that we've been using, they specialize in the process, so we know it's done right and we know that it's going to last for many generations to come. So we only have 3 vital records books left to complete everything that we have. And then we're going to circle back to the valuation books, and we're up to 1944 with those. So we still have a long way to go, so I'll be up here year after year asking for the $5,000 again. But that's what we need to do, and it's in the best interest of the town to keep the records preserved.
Great.
In later years, in FY21, you'll see that we have $50,000 in there for a records document management system. So it's something we have an internal team working on, both to reduce paper, to digitize documents, to make them available to the public, to share them between departments. There's a variety of goals. And what our team decided this past year, they've been working on it, is that we really need to have a better filing system, and that there are things we can do internally to get us ready for that. And that would be a better first step. So we are doing that and looking at all the different document management options. And so that will be something in future years that we'll continue to discuss. For this year, we are looking at recommending town zoning and land use. And so if you'll remember the housing survey that we just did, assessment, and one of the recommendations was about our minimum lot size and how that increases development costs and adds to the unaffordability of housing. On the other hand, we have development pressures that people are voicing concerns about, and we certainly don't want to just open up the town for more development. And so how do we measure those? And so we're just going to talk a little bit about what we're hoping to do with this fund.
So essentially what we're looking to do is to continue the process that we started with the housing study that we just completed. So we had our housing assessment completed, and now we're looking to move forward into figuring out what the potential action items are. So we're looking a little bit more at the nuts and bolts approach of taking some of the concepts and ideas that were introduced in a housing study plan and seeing what that looks like in terms of implementation. And as part of that as well, you'll notice in the plan we have some funds set aside for community survey as well. It's been noted the last time that we did a community survey was, I believe, in 2001. And so we've had some folks that have made some requests that it's time to do another community survey. And so we hope to include that along with the review of our land use, our zoning practices, and our regs, combined with the recommendations in the housing study, and look forward to coming forward with some recommendations for some changes.
So we didn't cover every item in the CIP, but those were the highlights, and if you have any other questions, we're here to answer them.
Well, I say we move on to item number 5, review proposed ordinance revisions for town meeting warrants. Laurie?
So each year, we prepare ordinance revisions for the town meeting warrant, and Tracy is going to come back up to the podium and just review with you the process over the next couple of months.
Okay, so tonight you'll be seeing the proposed changes for the first time probably. And then after this meeting, we're going to send all those proposals to the appropriate boards, committees, and the attorneys for legal review. And then at the next meeting on February 22nd, there'll be a public discussion and input regarding those ordinance changes. And then March 8th, we'll have the suggested changes back from the attorney for you to review, and they'll be presented to you at that time. And then we'll take your recommendations and prepare final presentation to you on March 22nd. So that's when hopefully you'll have the final version of what we're proposing. And then April 12th, hopefully you'll sign the warrant, and we'll be ready for town meeting.
So we're gonna go over these briefly, but if you guys have any changes or questions, let us know. The street ordinance is the one that focuses on our E911 addressing, and really it just needs some updating and clarity provisions. So Jim Burrows, our addressing officer, has been working on those amendments and met with the Public Safety Committee. So those are the changes under the street ordinance. The administrative code and Cape Porpoise Pier ordinances have to do with organizational structure. So with the loss of Alan Moyer and the vacation of our wastewater superintendent position as well as our fire chief position, I have been looking internally at our organizational structure in ways in which we can better respond to the needs of the citizens as well as be more adaptable and flexible in the future. There are pros and cons to every organizational structure, and I'm trying to address some of the cons I see in our current one. One of those would be, I think that highway and wastewater have some synchronicity that we could build upon, and I'm proposing that we have a public works director position that would oversee both with a deputy director. And I believe that we can build on that, so I'm looking to change the administrative code from the wastewater department to the public works department. At the Cape Porpoise Pier revision, it says that the harbor master will report to the police chief. So Lee currently is our harbor master and pier manager. He wears two very different hats. And it is not uncommon for the harbor master to be a part of the law enforcement group. And certainly there's a lot of enforcement there, and I think that, again, that would assist Lee and give him more support down there at the pier. And that change would have him report in his harbor master duties to the police. The next changes, I'm going to let Werner come up, but the revision to the growth area map, the setback, the parking standard, and the removal of the fees are all generated through planning and codes.
So the first revision deals with the growth area map. This is a map that lives within the town's comprehensive plan. Whenever we created that map, put that together in 2010, its purpose was to identify properties based on their proximity to infrastructure and classify them into different rate of growth areas. So what we didn't necessarily anticipate when that was put together was how we deal with properties whenever infrastructure gets expanded. And so what this ordinance revision would allow is it would allow for the growth planning to modify that map whenever actual physical infrastructure changes happen so that properties can be properly classified into the category that they belong based on what they actually have for infrastructure. It doesn't change the number of growth permits, it merely reclassifies the property so that they're treated alike with other properties. The second revision deals with clarifying setbacks related to lot lines and rights of way. There's some what I would call confusing and contradictory language in the land use ordinance relative to sometimes where you pull a setback from, whether you're pulling it from a street, a road, or a right-of-way. And so this ordinance revision just cleans that language up and makes it consistent in terms of pulling front setbacks from edge of road right-of-way and not necessarily from constructed street. There have been questions and confusion as to whether it just deals with public or private. This clarifies all of that. The third one is, is a bit of a housekeeping item. A number of years ago, DEP allowed for the coastal communities to allow property owners to use these semi-pervious materials for driveway construction and allowed towns to give property owners a credit towards lot coverage. So we followed suit with that with putting it in ordinance. We created a standard and put it in ordinance. What was found after a number of years was that some communities weren't consistently enforcing what DEP's intent was along with contractors not necessarily installing these products properly, and so it really didn't accomplish what what DEP was hoping that it would. So they've since disallowed this practice of giving credit, and so we just now need to go into the ordinance and remove that so that we're not adverse with their directive. And then the last one, again, is a housekeeping item, and this is a revision of the floodplain management ordinance. This merely just removes the fee component out of the ordinance and places that in the fee structure table with the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you, Warner. Do we have any feedback on this? We're gonna have plenty of opportunities to look at it.
It's very, very reasonable,
Yeah.
very correct.
Very good. Jill, you have anything? Lori, do we need to vote on this evening?
We don't, we will bring them back, but we just are looking for any feedback as we continue to revise them.
Sounds right on the track.
All right, number 6, set the 2018 fees for Goose Rocks Beach parking stickers. Lori, you want to take this, or do you want to discuss?
Yep, that's fine.
The current fees are resident seasonal, $5, non-resident daily, $15, non-resident weekly, $50, and non-resident seasonal, $100.
And I think you had asked how long those fees had been in effect, and
Correct.
Tracy had some info on that.
I couldn't find the exact date, but it's been that way for at least the past 5 years. So it's been this way for quite a bit.
I do remember that
I remember
this
we
board
changed.
voted on them at
Yeah.
some point.
We went up quite a bit, about 4 or 5 years ago.
I think it went from $4 to $5 for the resident,
It
but
wasn't
I'm
the
not sure about the
resident one, It was
others.
the non-residential.
Yeah.
went
I
up.
think it went from 50 to 100.
Yeah, because we
Yeah.
got some complaints from people in Kennebunkport,
Yeah,
because it went up quite a bit.
right.
So I'd like to just stay with this.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to keep it the same?
Second.
All those in favor? So moved. Number 7, adopt the Goose Rocks Beach parking sticker rules and regulations, not to be confused with the fees. Lori, would you like to handle this?
Each year you are supposed to review the rules and regulations. We have brought forward the same rules and regulations that have been in effect, for the past few years.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor? So moved. That passes. Request authorization to sell fire department air bottles.
Jim Burrows is here tonight to talk about this issue.
Evening.
Hello, Jim.
We've amassed some air bottles that we've been holding for a good market. Well, the market doesn't seem to be coming. But we can get more for them by selling to a third party who's going to make a profit on them. Salvage price is about $2.75. We saw these people get about $10. If EPA and people are listening to me, they'd probably come down here and ask me, well, we haven't drilled holes in them, which we're supposed to do. This is the reason, so we can offload them legally.
Sounds like a good plan to me.
Do you have somebody who would like them?
Yes, we do.
Good, 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 good.
They'll rehydro them and reuse them.
No, they're outdated in the state of Maine for hydro testing.
Okay.
Some other states look at things differently, that's why there's an option.
Sure.
So I'm looking for a motion here.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion passes. All right. Number 9, award the bid for a hydraulic pump and hose for the fire department.
Good evening.
Hello, Dick.
I'm Dick Stedman, Fire Administrator, and this is year 3 of a 3-year program to upgrade our extrication equipment, commonly referred to as Jaws of Life. And 3 years ago, it was determined that our original equipment, which is about 15, 16 years old, was not sufficiently strong enough to cut certain features on modern vehicles that are made of a much more durable metal. And as a result, we did a lot of investigation as to which brand and which features on the various brands would be useful for us. We settled on the Genesis brand as being the best for us due to there being bit of a lighter weight and easier handling features on them, which for our, because we're such a young fire department, we felt that would be easier for us to utilize. So the first 2 years included the actual tools themselves in 2 spaces, and in this final year, we're requesting the purchase of a new hydraulic pump sufficient to operate these at their maximum capacity. There really are 2 brands that are compatible with the types of connections on the tools that we did have. Those are listed on the sheet that should be in your packet. The manufacturer that we had originally purchased was from Genesis. Both Genesis and Amcus, which coincidentally happens to be our original brand of tools, we requested quotes from them with the special connectors that our tools require. And as you can see, there was a significant disparity in the pricing between the 2. And as a result, we're recommending that the Genesis brand pump and a couple of sets of hoses be purchased through the HSE Fire and Safety Company in Lewiston. The total for the equipment that we're requesting through HSE would be $8,028. The comparable equipment from manufactured by Amcus and sold through Fire Tech and Safety in Winthrop it would be $10,155. So it's really a pretty clear choice on this one.
Have a motion?
I would make a motion to use Genesis for the hydraulic pump and the hoses for $8,028.
Second. All those in favor? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dick.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, Dick.
Okay, number 10, award the backhoe bid. Mike, you want to come up and tell us about your new backhoe?
We're spending a lot of money.
Is that what we do? Spend other people's money?
Phil's favorite thing.
Yeah, right.
So we are replacing our Public Works backhoe. We received 3 bids from it, and the summary of those, and we asked for trade-in costs on our old backhoe, and that's optional for you guys whether to accept the trade-in or not. John Deere was the low bidder at $119,000. Case was $316.27 higher, and Caterpillar was a little over $5,000 higher above that. Our crew members demoed all 3 machines. The issue we have is that the Deere and the Case, in being very close in price, our crew thought they were both excellent machines. Really, I think that, and as I spec'd them out, and I think both bidders came in good. They gave us, I think we got an excellent price, and I think we got good machines whichever way we go. Really, the main difference that we see for our operations between the 2 is in the front end loader. The Case has the stack off to the side. The guys think that may give them a little better visibility. It's got the cylinders that support the loader bucket, or it's got 2 smaller twin ones on the outside. John Deere has one in the center. Once again, it's just a slight issue if you're screening the center cylinder. You got to be careful when you're screening material. But our operators, we've had the John Deere previously with no issues with where the stack is, so we can go either way. When I spoke with the crew about it, they thought that they actually liked the Case a little better, but it was very little better.
Well, in playing with my little teeny little loader at home, moving snow today, I can see where you like the exhaust off to the side, so you can see what you like. And I've never seen a loader that only had 1 piston to actuate the bucket. But I'm a lobsterman, not a highway department guy.
It's just their size differently. That cylinder on the John Deere is much bigger than the twins on the Case. But
would we be responsible for the maintenance, or do you get a warranty?
Deere offers a 3-year warranty standard, Case is a 2-year warranty standard, so it's a little better warranty with the Deere.
But you like the Case better?
We like the Case better. When you get them, can we just talk about the trade-in a little bit? Obviously, the trade-in from Deere is better. We looked at those prices. I spoke with Bob Pappas about it. He thinks we can probably get a better price. Several of local contractors have expressed an interest in our backhoe. So we could probably, I think we could offer that for sale at a minimum with, as a bid, for bids, with a minimum price above 31,000 and see how we do. Of course, if we do that, we lose out on, once you award this contract without the trade-in, I can't go back and sell them this. But, so there is a risk, we've got $31,000 on the table right now. We could get, more than that. Realistically, somewhere between 32,000 to 40,000, I think, is where you might get a bid.
So this price doesn't include the trade-in?
Correct.
It's gonna be that one?
Yes.
Okay.
If
And I agree with you. I don't like that pipe coming up. That's a distraction, for sure.
It seems odd that they placed it there.
I
but-
know. I would make a motion to purchase the Case for $119,316.27.
1627.
Second.
Before we go further, just a little discussion, is that so that, are we gonna keep our old?
Well, that would be up to Mike, I think.
We'd be selling
It's up to us to authorize him to sell it.
Oh,
So do you wanna make that part of your motion? That we accept this and we allow highway to sell their own equipment as opposed to trade it in?
just like that.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Is that your preference?
Yeah, we budgeted, there's actually, when we thought about this at budget time, we were gonna get 20,000 in trade. That money goes into the general fund, or,
Yeah, we counted it as a revenue this year.
so that would be revenue we were counting on anyway. So it goes back, and that, whatever we get will go to revenue, not to public
So is
works.
your preference and recommendation to sell the piece independently of this transaction?
I think, we think there's, when I talk to my crew and my mechanic and myself, I think we can get a little better price.
Well, then I second the motion as Sheila has amended it.
Okay, so we have a motion to purchase the Case for $119,316.27 and allow the highway department to dispose of their old loader and the money to go into the public fund.
That's it.
All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. All right, looks like we have wastewater ordinance revisions.
So the wastewater ordinance is not under your town meeting ordinances because the selectmen have authority to pass the ordinances, and so it's a little different. We do have some changes proposed in the wastewater ordinances though as well. These are ones that Alan was working on last summer with our town attorney. Most of the changes that he was working on were relative to dwelling unit definition. Back when the town had adopted the wastewater ordinance, it put in the definitions from the land use code in regards to dwelling units, and those have now changed, and they really aren't relative to what we do with dwelling units in terms of charging. So we think that needs to come out, and there was some clarification about the unit charges and accessory apartments. The other change we have proposed in here is to remove superintendent and replace it with public works director.
All right. Any comments on that?
No, sorry.
Yeah. Other business, and under here I have chief selection process.
So we have advertised for a part-time fire chief, and the resumes are due February 23rd. I've asked for 2 members of the fire department to sit on the selection team, as well as Chief Sanford. And I have reached out to a fire chief in another community as well. And I wanted to make sure you're aware of the process. Our goal is to have somebody in place by May. I had asked if any board members would be interested in serving.
I think I heard one.
Stuart had offered his services, and I would certainly be pleased to have him be a part of the team as well.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Do you have anything else, Lori?
I do not.
Stuart, do you have anything?
Nothing to add.
Jill?
Nothing.
All right. Do I have a movement on the warrant?
So
Second.
All those in favor?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Adjourn. I call this meeting to end at 7:02 p.m.
Thank you.
Good job.